Hello, greetings of the day. I thank the organizers of this event for inviting me. The past edition of this event was very useful to us in formulating our strategy towards sustainable road freight. We'll see how it helped as I talk more. My name is Sundaresan. I head the New Technologies Department at Ashok Leyland. Ashok Leyland is an India-based pure-play commercial vehicle manufacturer. We make trucks ranging from 2.5 ton to 55 ton GVW and buses of all shapes and sizes. Predominantly diesel or CNG powered, but we have a subsidiary, Switch Mobility, that is into electric buses and electric light commercial vehicles. Switch has electric buses running both in UK and in India. And as we were getting to understand electric commercial vehicles, both their advantages and constraints, we started debating zero emission solutions to our bigger market, which is trucks. And I'm going to talk about the challenges we faced and the learnings in our journey. Of course, these are still in their early stages, but let me cover them. Of course, the challenges we face as an OEM pale in comparison to what the world is facing. But the importance of net zero freight cannot be overemphasized. And it's all the more important for OEMs to make the path financially sustainable as well. Uh, so, what are the challenges? The first challenge a large OEM faces is the internal debate. Of course, it's just a reflection of what's happening in the wider world. A lot of skeptics. Is the climate change real? First, is it man-made or is it part of a natural cycle? Is it that bad? And can science find a solution to this? And which does not involve us, by the way. So it's somebody else's problem. Somebody else can't they find a solution? And after all, transport industry's contribution is much smaller than many other sectors. Why not first those sectors? And among the solutions, electric vehicles, they only shift the pollution from one place to another. Is that even sustainable? Who will pay for all this? Who will pay the OEMs for the investments they need to make? Who will pay the customers who have to pay higher prices given all this? So this and all the other implications. So even if we get over the first hurdle and agree that yeah, climate change is real, and as an OEM we have a role to play, then the next debate is about what should we do, which specific technology should we go for. So there are advocates for each technology with very strong arguments in favor of and even stronger arguments against every other technology. The debates are passionate, but finally in the end no conclusion is reached. And as you can see, the choices are many, ranging from pure electric vehicle, fuel cell electric vehicles, hybrids, CNG, LNG, biofuels, synthetic fuels, and the latest entrant hydrogen internal combustion engine. And our traditional pathways are really not helping. India has always been a follower as far as commercial vehicle market is concerned. The regulations typically follow the European regulations with a few years lag. So we always look to Europe to make our technology roadmaps. But this time around, we don't see a clear direction in Europe. So some say they are going to be pure electric, and we see a uh, conflicting news just a few days later. And we see ultimately many organizations making huge investments in multiple startups, competing technologies, and some of these are actually staying under the radar. Uh, like the work on biofuels, synthetic fuels, or hydrogen combustion engines. These are not, or at least I guess the media does not pick them up because they are not as flashy as, let's say, battery electric or fuel cell electric vehicles. So we keep reading, attending webinars, and that's one benefit from the pandemic. It has helped in making many webinars easily accessible and also helped conversations across the world more productive. So in last year's SRF event, actually, we found many presentations that were addressing the predicaments we were and we still continue to face. And this presentation in particular was very helpful in helping us come up with a formal framework for developing a strategy. So this was the observe, orientate, decide, act loop. So we formally identified how we are doing each step in this loop. Uh, so when the as far as observation is concerned, we interact with multiple entities, universities, research labs, etc. We talk to the government. Government has a very big role to play in this transition. I mean, small tweaks that they can do either to taxes or highway tolls or subsidies can essentially make or break a technology. NGOs and think tanks are helping quite a lot. They keep releasing white papers, they talk to different stakeholders, disseminate those learnings, and they run pilots, publish results, etc. And customers at multiple levels. So they are aware of the challenges, and some of them, essentially the large consumers of cargo transport, the let's say the cement or FMCG, beverages, the Amazons and Flipkarts, they are under pressure to decarbonize their operations. So they in turn talk to their fleet operators and talk to OEMs directly, and the fleet operators also understand that the entire transport industry is changing. So we discuss with them what their concerns are, how do they see the evolution, and then we talk to suppliers, and most of our suppliers are multinationals, so they have far more exposure than we do. They have first-hand experience with the different technologies, different markets, and they're also acquiring startups to stay relevant in these changing times. And so we also talk to startups. We want to understand, are there innovations that are addressing some of the technology problems as we see, or even the way business is done, because the I mean, status quo is probably not the way for some of the technologies at least. Then of course competition. So we try to understand what they are working on, how they are trying to differentiate themselves. So try to see their publications, patents, etc. Then comes the orientation part. So we need to make sense of all the observations, and as I already mentioned, these observations point in different directions. So what we try to do is build cost models first. So cost models help us understand what a particular technology is going to cost us and our customers. And more importantly, how the cost is going to evolve over the years. So what are the technology hurdles that are making something more expensive, and what's the likelihood, what's the kind of timeline when that hurdle will be overcome. Uh, and then we build the engineering models. So essentially we simulate and try to understand how a technology is going to operate in the field, and that in turn helps to feed the data to the cost model, because ultimately we need to know what the performance is going to be, what the efficiency is going to be, how much of the fuel or energy consumption will be. So that in turn kind of feeds the TCO computation. And at some point, we do a proof of concept. Uh, so that again, in turn, feeds back to the engineering model, build prototypes, test, and then do small volume pilots. With all that, take the decisions from whatever insights that we get based on all this. We kind of have a tentative product roadmap and plan our investments accordingly, plan our technology development accordingly, and finally, when the uh, time comes, you release the product. So that's the kind of strategy we have adopted. So what we have kind of understood from all this is that we need to be a lot agile and kind of make ourselves adapt to the kind of evolving scenarios. And as I mentioned, when we are building both the cost models and the engineering models, actually disorientation happens. Because the engineering model, okay, physics, you can understand, you can kind of read, talk to various people, and you fairly quickly realize that you need to make assumptions in order to create the model. So these assumptions could be various uh, kind of parameters for the model, or even some of the phenomena. For example, let's say the battery life is a very key contributor to the overall cost. So, what all factors influence the battery life? So, though the subject is well researched and a lot is known, in the initial years, very little was known, and there were a lot of errors as well. So, we make predictions, and as and when data from experiments is available, or data from other sources is available, they kind of feed back to the assumptions and the level of confidence in the assumption and the variation it introduces in the output is actually often more than the difference between competing options. So the confidence with which we can kind of say this option is better than the other option as far as this is concerned is really not very, we don't have too much confidence, especially if the underlying assumption is just that with no backing. Um, Similarly, for the cost models, there are a lot of unknowns. So, what is going to be the cost of maintenance? What's going to be the resale value? Both of these going to impact any TCO very, very significantly. And what are the cost of newer technologies? How mature are they? When are they likely to be mature enough to be in the market? So part of the journey, so make mistakes, you learn, correct, move on. And that is part of, again, the observe and orientate steps, where you constantly need to keep refining these models, keep refining the conclusions we are drawing from those models. Okay. So what we have done is we have decomposed the entire landscape, that is our customers and the technologies. We have tried to map how each technology is going to progress, how the customers will respond to them, what other factors will influence their adoption. So based on all this, our position publicly stated earlier this year is that As of now, no technology can be ruled out. Kind of sounds like an anticlimax, but that's the conclusion. And as an organization, we need to manage the uncertainty. And this decade is going to be a decade of transition, and a lot of things are going to evolve, and uh, we need to stay on top of all those changes that are going to happen. And respond. So as of now, for all those sectors, we identified what are the drivers acting for or against each technology. So all we can do is to keep tracking them, observing and orienting ourselves as the future unfolds. But act we must, both to ensure the organization survival and more importantly the I mean all of our future as well. Again, thank for inviting me for this. I look forward to questions and also learn more from the discussions. Thank you.